Why not try something smart to chew on? The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Wednesday, March the 6th, 2024, and this is program number 1139. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. That's our mainline number. You can also reach us on WhatsApp. If you've got that app on your phone, on your mobile device, you can call in to 724-0008. Again, that WhatsApp number is 724-0008. Now, of course, you may be following us on radio at 101.1 FM, but you can also get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com. That's rcistlucia.com. We're streaming live there, and all our older shows are downloadable there. You can get them as well. Now, as well, you can check us out on Facebook, and that is on the official page of Radio Caribbean International. Of course, be sure to like and share that as well with your friends and family living overseas. If you are celebrating your birthdays today, we do wish you a very happy birthday. We're going to have to check on that list in just a bit to see who is sending birthday greetings out there. And whoever it is, they would certainly be celebrating it with the good company of Mr. Shaquille O'Neal. And you remember him as the LA Lakers superstar, bringing the Lakers to fame with 3 consecutive NBA championships back between 2000 and 2002. He turns 52 today. Now, a bit of history for today. In the year 1479, the Treaty of Alcasovas in which Portugal gave the Canary Islands to the Kingdom of Castile. Of course, that later becomes the Kingdom of Spain, in exchange for claims in West Africa. In 1836, on this day, saw the Battle of the Alamo. And after 13 days of fighting, nearly 3,000 Mexican soldiers overwhelmed the Texan defenders of the Alamo, killing 182 to 257 Texans, including William Travis, Jim Bowie, and Davy Crockett. You recall that Texas declared its own independence. In the year 1857, the Dred Scott decision of the United States Supreme Court ruled that Africans cannot be U.S. citizens. And of course, it very much typifies the fact that even the U.S. Supreme Court can quite often get it wrong. In the year 1869, Dmitry Mendeleev presented the first periodic table of the elements to the Russian Chemical Society. 1899, a bit more science news, with aspirin becoming patented, and that was by Felix Hoffmann at the German company Bayer. Police in the year 1921 in the town of Sunbury, Pennsylvania, issued an edict requiring women to wear skirts at least 4 inches below the knee. And in 1964, on this day, boxing legend Cassius Clay joined the Nation of Islam, and he changed his name to Muhammad Ali, calling his former title a slave name. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is running the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gas and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses, Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And good afternoon. Welcome back to our program here at Radio Caribbean International, the lunchroom for today. Now, we have often heard that the one of the fundamental roles of government is the maintenance, the preservation of law and order. And that, of course, is coming from a place of believing that, of course, for a society, for a country, for a state to be able to grow, to be able to prosper, to be able to do well, whether societally or economically, it requires stability, it requires peace, it requires rules, it requires laws. And it requires an environment where chaos does not reign. And quite often when we look at the description of a failed state, it has quite a bit to do with the issue of a lack of law and order, the disintegration of state institutions that are meant to pursue and to promote and to preserve that ideal of having law and order. And of course, we know that many different things can pervert that system or pervert the state. We've seen the issues of corruption in countries being a major one. And of course, we've seen how especially financial corruption, the siphoning off of resources from the state, because of course the state is given very special powers to be able to collect money in the form of taxation, and of course as well to set penalties for not following the rules through fines and fees and whatever the case may be. And it therefore can utilize that to and should be utilizing that to the benefit of the greater good, the benefit of society. Where we see corruption becoming a major problem is usually where individuals who hold some form of public office, and we're not speaking just merely of persons at the top, but certainly state actors, whether they may be a police officer or they may be a judicial officer, they may be within the Ministry of Finance, they may be an accounting officer within some agency. And that institution is corrupted by individuals who are engaged in whatever the case may be, whether it's money laundering, whether it's fraud, whether it's promoting or using their influence to provide resources to one group or another more than would seem reasonable. And that, of course, has been a major concern all around the world, but in particular countries that are still developing and where there are not very well developed systems of accountability to ensure that individuals, if they in fact are caught, that they are held to account, that action is taken. But the other major issue, of course, that can certainly bring down a country is that of crime. And in fact, quite often crime is also, well, corruption is a crime in many instances, but unfortunately, quite often it is not criminally liable sufficiently to hold some of these individuals who are engaged in it. But crime, as we quite often think about it, where you have criminals who are networked in through the system of gangs, criminal networks, they can certainly be very negatively influential in causing for an eroding of the state. And they do so again through corruption. And of course, it's quite often that we will see bribes, we will see money being offered to state officials, and we've seen it in many countries. We see that criminals have amassed a lot of wealth, and so therefore they have the ability to pay off state actors, especially when their salary points may be far lower than those criminals, what they are bringing forward. And we see that impact of corruption there. But in other instances, it also, we can see that it gets to a point where it is really eroding the sense of safety that that exists in a country. Now, unfortunately, the Caribbean has not had a very good history when it comes to this matter, and in particular, we think to the current situation over in Haiti. And this year, I believe, Haiti, in January the 1st of this year, it would have been marking 220 years since it obtained its independence from France. And since then, of course, we have seen a very, very difficult time for that country for many different reasons, including, of course, its treatment as the first independent black country in a world at that time surrounded by countries which were engaged in slaving, engaged in the enslavement of people of African descent, people from the continent, in particular Western Central Africa, being brought to the Caribbean to work on these plantation economies which were extracting wealth. And of course, Haiti, its former self, was effectively a French colony by the name of Saint-Domingue, and in fact was one of the, if not the wealthiest colonies for France, and certainly one of the wealthiest colonies in the world at that time. And it has been treated with a degree of vengeance effectively by its former colonial powers, including others who did not want to see this spread of revolutionary fervor, this spread of success by blacks who were able to claim for themselves their own freedom. And of course, we have seen the sordid situation with Haiti up to the present day. Of course, so many other issues plaguing that country, including, of course, the matter of natural disasters and many earthquakes and hurricanes, and this cumulative effect that has had over the years has left a state certainly ravaged. And it is coming to a point, and of course, of late, as a result of we saw the assassination of the Haitian president quite recently. After an investigation, individuals have been arrested, inclusive of his wife, who were charged with this matter of planning an assassination. Of course, we've seen the current Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, holding on to power, called for elections for quite some time, again, overdue. And then within that mix, the rise and the influence of gangs, of criminal gangs. And we've seen this in the past. We've seen it in many countries where criminal institutions, if you want to call them that, criminal actors, criminal elements get to the point where they are filling a vacuum that is left by the absence of the state. And these, we in fact, in in some places, these are called cartels. In some other places, we've seen the rise of garrisons, as they were known in Jamaica, especially during the 1970s, where communities depend on the gang leaders for effectively their sustenance, their economic livelihood, their protection as well. And they, in and of themselves, as a result, become not just influential within that neighborhood, but they can rise in many instances to have political influence over the state itself. And that, of course, is, one can say, almost the worst case scenario. And Haiti at this point has gotten to that. One can say it's been at that point for a very long time. But a very interesting story now being released by the Jamaica Gleaner, from yesterday, effectively saying that criminal armed gangs claim power in Haiti and vowed the installation of a new government. Now, of course, that is quite a bit of an oxymoron. We quite often hear of countries where there are coups d'etat, where military forces decide that they are going to seize power. They are going to take control of executive authority, legislative authority, and we've seen it quite often in a number of African countries, Asian countries over the years as well, where and it's happened we should also mention in the past, even in European countries all around the world, where you see these strongman elements coming to the fore, using force to be able to grab hold to power. But in this instance, we are seeing that these paramilitary, if you want, these militia-type entities are coming from criminal armed gangs. And the story reads as follows. A coalition of wanted criminal armed gangs has claimed power in Haiti, blocking Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry from returning home after he traveled to Kenya to sign an agreement allowing for a United Nations Security Council sanctioned international force to restore peace and security in the French-speaking Caribbean community, CARICOM country. In addition, the gangs are threatening to gun down any aircraft flying him back to the troubled Caribbean country, where a 3-member presidential council would be installed as an acting executive branch. Outspoken and leftist political leader Jean-Charles Moïse said the new government would soon be installed with a judge, Doué Jr., as chairman, assisted by former rebel leader and former police commissioner Guy Philippe and Françoise Serville-Villiers from the religious sector, a close ally to Moïse. Quote, PM Henry and all the other members of the government must resign or they will face the consequences, Moïse told journalists on Tuesday. Many ministers and other government officials have gone into hiding because they are nowhere to be found, Moïse said, promising that members of government who cooperate would have nothing to fear. But he warned those who would remain faithful to Ariel Henry would have to face the population's anger and would be sought after and chased. Moïse has also warned foreign diplomats not to interfere with the country's internal matters under the penalty of being kicked out of the country. Quote, any good help from cooperating countries will be welcome, but everything should be done according to terms that take into account our own interests and dignity, Moïse told reporters. Bursts of automatic weapons were fired until late Monday night from outside the international airport towards the landing runway, with gunmen simulating taking down an aircraft. Footage obtained by Haitian Caribbean News Network, HCNN, shows a man standing on the roof of a sports utility vehicle and firing a machine gun towards the runway, as to show what would happen to Henri, if he tries to enter the country by air on Tuesday night. And many of the gunmen came from nearby slums, part of the larger gang coalition. Members of the group appeared on Tuesday, very determined to install a new government, a new regime to effectively lead the country, unless a firm and resolute decision by the United States or other big international players such as Canada, France, or Europe to compel actors to do otherwise. The gang members seem ready to start takeover process immediately, with political observers noting, quote, "They now control the country. There's absolutely no challenge to their efforts to establish themselves as Haiti's new masters." Approximately 5,000 detainees have fled Haiti's prison, and the bodies of at least 14 people have been counted on the streets in different neighborhoods of the capital, Port-au-Prince, several rights groups told HCNN. At the National Penitentiary, 6 or 7 detainees were killed. 3 were found dead in the immediate surroundings of the prison, while 2 or 3 were killed inside the facility, said Pierre-René François, Haitian Police Inspector General in charge of the country's jails. And that story coming from the Jamaica Gleaner, entitled "Criminal Armed Gangs Claim Power in Haiti and Vow the Installation of a New Government." Now, of course, this is a very difficult situation, to say the least, as we're seeing, in one hand, efforts by the current Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, and of course heading across to Kenya in trying to seek support through the United Nations, and seeking support in particular through the Kenyan armed forces to be able to bring a force to be able to hold power, to be able to establish law and order in Haiti. And within that space, the vacuum of effectively gangs coming to the fore and now trying to create their own government within this very mix. And of course, each side is looking for legitimacy. Each side is trying to hold power. Each side is certainly trying to restore what they figure will be a proper government in Haiti. And it is certainly a very, very messy situation where things are so muddied, where we quite often think about things from in very purest sense of right and wrong, and this side is the good side and this side is the bad side. It's very, very difficult to be able to make sense really of this reality of what is befallen Haiti at this time. It is certainly causing lots of concern in very many different communities. People are certainly being impacted. Of course, right here in St. Lucia, we're celebrating, I think, 170 years since the establishment of St. Joseph's Convent, which was done by the Sisters of Cluny, coming out of Martinique many, many years ago. And of course, those sisters, that religious order has been in a number of countries all around the Caribbean and in Africa. But in fact, a message circulating coming out of the Cluny nuns in Haiti, effectively stating the situation is out of control. And it reads as follows: "Sad to inform you that 3 of our sisters, Sister Christiane Gervais and 2 young sisters, were kidnapped in Haiti this afternoon. Please storm heavens for the release of the sisters and also for the protection of the 40 boarders, the 2 sisters, and 3 aspirants who have remained in the community for the moment. The gang is still around the house, and the sisters are terrified. Please do pray. Ask all whom you know to pray, please. Coming from Sister Luciana de Rosario in the congregation of St. Joseph of Cluny over in Haiti. And of course, this situation is impacting the lives of ordinary citizens of Haiti, a country of over 10 million people, and with a very, very extensive diaspora in France and as well in the United States of America, who are no doubt looking on with great, great concern and dismay in the current plight over there. Now, of course, the matter of gangs is a very, very serious one. And we have seen how gangs can influence and take control and become immensely influential and powerful. And of course, in some instances, we've seen these popularized through movies like The Godfather, for instance, where you've got gangs out of Sicily, in Italy, being transplanted into the United States and continuing their activities. And of course, we've seen how gangs out of many different countries, Japan, Korea, Central America, establishing themselves in metropolitan areas and using those areas, of course, as bases of operation, quite often engaged in trade of some illegal contraband of whatever might be illegal at the time. It might be marijuana, it might be cocaine, it might be meth, and whatever the case is, drugs and cigarettes, guns, and engage in a lot of these things to gain wealth. And of course, they also quite often look for ability to wash those funds, to bring them into the financial system. That has become a major issue all around the world. And how you deal with the matter of money laundering, cleaning up of that money, has in fact impacted the banking sector tremendously, with lots of various requirements there. And of course, that interplay between these influences, of course, of gangs, they're always looking for legitimacy. They're always looking for political connection. They're always looking for political influence and control. So what we're seeing in Haiti is perhaps the most extreme of it, but it happens perhaps under the carpet or under the table in all societies around the world. And it is a matter of concern that we've got to be very, very aware of, and it requires a great deal of analysis. Now, of course, right here in the Eastern Caribbean, we've been facing some very high homicide rates, very high rates of violent crime. And a lot of it has been associated with gangs. A lot of it has been associated with reprisal killings. And it is not even just the gang members themselves who have been targeted. We have seen of late the practice of targeting anybody associated with gang members. And they have also have fallen victim to that violence as well. And coming out of this, we're seeing the influences from other countries. It's that network that exists in the Southern Caribbean, in this Eastern Caribbean region, is becoming a lot more clear. Now, in the past, we all know young people, they're looking for association. They're looking for a feeling of belonging. They're looking to know that they can be part of something, that they have something to look forward to. And it's often individuals who find themselves in difficult circumstances, They may have difficult circumstances at their homes. It may be because of poverty. It may be because of abuse at the home. They're not finding belonging and community in their home, amongst their family. They sometimes feel ostracized. They're looking to see how they can find some level of acceptance, some level of recognition even, and belonging within some group out there. And this is exactly what gangs are feeding on, that ability to be able to offer this carrot to a young person who is already on the fringes of the society, the fringes of the classroom. And they're using that ability to be able to pull these individuals in very actively, we should also mention, to get them to join in on this gang. And it can start very simply by, offering them, something that they may want, offering them some sense of feeling that they're protected, that they're strong, and especially if they may have been children who have been bullied, or they were verbally abused, or they feel that the teacher might have been picking on them, they feel that their classroom doesn't like them, or they're not performing well at school maybe. They're looking for some kind of affirmation. And the gang comes in and is providing just that. And we're seeing how this is being spread in particular through the use of social media as well as the use of music. Now, quite recently, we've seen a number of very horrid acts involving students, children of school age. In fact, just yesterday, I believe we heard of a 17-year-old being charged for a homicide. We've heard of another 17-year-old not too long ago being killed. We've seen incidents of the use of knives and machetes and cutlasses by students quite brazenly in the heart of the city, in schools even. We're seeing a lot of activity that is going on. Now, let's be clear, this is not the first time, of course, that we've seen individuals coming into schools and or trying to bring weapons into schools. We know that this has been a problem for a while, but clearly, of late, it appears that this thing is getting very pervasive and very active. And it cannot be denied that there is some active movement existing out there. And apparently, a lot of it is being driven by this coming out of the Trinidad gang scene, this idea of 6 and 7. Now, a lot of us will be wondering, what is that in any case? What is the basis of this? Why a 6? Why a 7? Is there an 8? Is there a 9? Is there a 1 or a 2? These identifiers, these markers, and then, of course, we're seeing it being popularized by the rise of Trinidad music out there, becoming more popular, being listened to by a number of children. And so you see these associations being formed. Now, again, like I said, when I think back to when I was at secondary school, there were different fads out there that you would hear sometimes. You would have heard about Wu-Tang. You would have heard about, even in the United States, and, those who were interested in rap at the time, a very influential music form. You'd have heard about East Side and West Side and these sort of markers in that way. But what we're seeing is that it appears that even at the local level, existing gangs, existing groupings are identifying with these quote-unquote 6 and 7 gangs from outside, primarily from Trinidad. How that is playing out is that it appears that it is almost a sort of a unifying call across a number of different gangs, which may have existed in the past. We've heard of of gangs existing in some communities and areas, and who's aligned to whom and what have you. But it is clearly getting to a point where it is being popularized amongst young people. And that is something we've got to be very, very, very concerned about. The popularization and the creation of some level of acceptance amongst young people that this is somehow something that they can associate or should associate themselves with. And it requires some urgent study. And in my opinion, the need to actually look at what is going on there requires a multidisciplinary study of and a very deliberate one to see what is going on with respect to these gangs right now. And it means, therefore, it's not just about the police. You need to bring on board educators. You need to bring on board individuals who are social workers. You need to bring on board counselors. You need to bring on board psychologists. You need to bring on board people who are actually going to be looking at this thing to understand it and to see all the different angles that are in fact influencing this current rise in violence. Because we're seeing the results. We're clearly seeing this issue becoming a lot more prevalent, and it's getting to the point where it's in schools. Now, you know, in the United States of America, we've often heard about these school shootings and whatnot. Thankfully, we haven't seen a school shooting as yet, but we're seeing still, though, violence in schools. We're seeing it getting onto the streets. And, of course, the impact that is happening on other school children who may witness it, who may be fearful of what is going on parents, on teachers, on administrators. That is clearly a very dangerous state to be in, because one expects that school is going to be safe. So clearly it is going to require the action, the very deliberate action of police to deal with this matter, whether it's whatever you want to call it, a task force, a research group, whatever the case may be, but it needs to be properly understood. And therefore, coming out of understanding it, you will then begin to get the necessary actions and solutions to address this matter. Of course, increasing security at schools has certainly been something that has been called upon for many times and around the world. In fact, quite often schools not only have security officers, but they do have sometimes police officers assigned to schools during the day, during school time. So one may say that maybe the police are already feeling that they are stretched, but let's face it, this is the education system is a very important system. It's our largest single system in terms of population of people coming together in one single space all around the island every 5 days a week usually. And so it is very vulnerable, and so it requires very deliberate and special care and attention. Now, we'll discuss this and a few other matters in terms of gangs and crime and responses in just a bit, but we're due to take in our weather report. So that's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll take in our weather.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. This all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books. Dust, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody, we got the best as an island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Jugurziles, and Flag Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in island style.
We have tiles and things, sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-34. This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the Weather News.
So of course on the 1.1, it's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from the east near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. The weather fair to partly cloudy skies with a few brief isolated showers. There is an advisory in Hairbridge reads small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to above normal seas. The forecast for the lesser entities, fair to partly cloudy skies with widely scattered showers. And the weather summary, the Atlantic high pressure system will generate moderate easterly winds across the eastern Caribbean region during the next few days. The atmosphere over the region is expected to remain relatively dry and stable during the forecast period. And this is your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1. This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island Style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and things, sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. 16 minutes to go before the hour of 2 o'clock. And of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. As well as our WhatsApp number, it is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. And we've been discussing today gangs, the impact of gangs, certainly in Haiti right now, a country that is ridden with very strong gang criminal elements to the extent that they are trying to seize power and to control and to put forward their own government. And of course, we're seeing the impacts of gangs right here in St. Lucia on our school system, the rise of the Trini originated 6 and 7 that is seeming to become a lot more popular amongst our young people, being popularized in particular through the Trinidad genre of music. And of course, it's impacting Trinidad and Tobago as well. And a lot of the criminal activity in St. Lucia to some degree is connected to Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm not sure that we've actually heard that sufficiently, but that actually is a reality. And as well with Martinique, those two islands in particular are very influential, and Trinidad, because of its very strong connections with the South American continent, it's just across the Gulf of Paria, and you're already into Venezuela, and of course Venezuela itself has become a hotspot in terms of drug trafficking and the sourcing of guns, and it's become certainly a great concern there. And of course, that influence is coming through quite often through Trinidad and Tobago. Now, as well, the issue of money and the issue of money laundering, whether it's good money or bad money, of course, because of that difference, the stability of the EC dollar and the volatility in the past of the Trinidad and Tobago dollar, Trinidad investors have quite often seen the Eastern Caribbean as a safe place to invest their money, to buy government instruments, to make investments over the years. We've seen that, of course, through the case of CLICO, for example, in the past, and it has been a fairly lucrative area for good business, but also the bad business is seeing it in a like manner, and so it is. There is that very strong connection, no doubt. Now, it's interesting because we've known that Trinidad has been facing a lot of issues with respect to crime and violence, and of course, a lot of it has led to high rates of homicides. But in addition to that, in the past, we've even seen the issues of kidnapping. So it's come down tremendously, but that was a major fad at one point, maybe about two decades back, and we've because of that, of course, have seen a lot of interesting action taken in terms of trying to figure out what's happening over in Trinidad and Tobago that we should potentially be learning from in terms of their own response, and how much cooperation is also existing between Trinidad and Tobago authorities and St. Lucia authorities, Eastern Caribbean authorities, in the case of crime. Now, it appears, though, you notice that the crime rate in Grenada, at least homicide rate, is pretty low. So it's pretty much jumped a couple islands, and St. Lucia is a particular hotspot because of its connection with Martinique, because of that strong European connection, Martinique being a part of France, being a part of the European Union. And so that has placed St. Lucia in between this sort of, as a major go-between, a major entrepot for a lot of criminal activity and transshipment, illegal narco trafficking. And so that has meant that the influences that Trinidad is facing are also usually quite often the influences that we are also going to be facing. And of course, the In the past, we heard about maybe the Jamaican influence, but we're seeing, of course, a very strong Trinidadian influence as well. Interesting enough, the leader of the opposition, Honorable Alan Shasney, he decided that he was going to be part of a conversation being led by the main opposition party over in Trinidad and Tobago, that of the United National Congress, led by former Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar. And they, of course, both have in common the fact that they are former prime ministers of their respective countries. And he participated in this anti-crime talk, which is also happening in Trinidad, where they're dealing with their own major challenges. It has certainly caused a bit of a response by the current Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, leader of the People's National Movement, PNM government over there. But let's take a listen to a CNC3 Trinidad and Tobago news item, a news clip, in which it's actually taking in a bit of this back and forth, which has apparently come forward regarding the call by Mr. Shasney to see a greater voice for opposition parties in influencing national policy.
We are going to take this voice now to the region and form a collective group of leaders of the oppositions and to make sure that the voices of the leader of the opposition in the Caribbean region is heard by the CDB, by the World Bank, and by CARICOM.
Apart from a regional group of opposition members, Shasnet also called for the establishment of a regional security system to combat crime in the Caribbean. When contacted for comment, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley would only say that he has already expressed all of his thoughts on St. Lucia's opposition leader without providing any context. Despite Shasnet's posturing, one political scientist believes this organization may never bear fruit.
I don't think it would be quite feasible because we operate in a system of winner takes it all.
Meanwhile, economist Dr. Indira Sajiwan has sought to remind the public that opposition leaders are actually prime ministers in waiting, as she recalled that both Shasnet and Persad-Bissessar once led their respective countries. She believes a regional organization representing opposition leaders, however, may not have any real impact.
This, to me, potentially represents another organization, a layer of organizational bureaucracy, which when I look at the history of political organization, regional political organization, the track record in terms of performance doesn't support that this is going to be any different.
She adds that opposition leaders cannot lobby for funding from certain foreign entities. Meanwhile, Dr. Rampersad says Shasnet's appeal for a collaborative effort to combat crime may benefit Persad-Bissessar in the long run, as she seeks to establish her party as the entity that will collaborate internally and externally to stamp out the scourge of crime. Doris Polo, CNC3 News.
And that there, of course, a CNC3 clip from Trinidad and Tobago speaking about that entire response and this call for greater voice at the regional level. Of course, Mr. Shasney suggesting that a regional leaders of opposition entity needs to be formed. And of course, maybe there is good value to that. And there, in fact, a number of entities, certainly at the level of the OECS, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, where you actually have a regional assembly, and of course, there is no doubt representation of regional opposition parties within that assembly. But in addition to that, by nature, by mere fact that many of these bodies, these international bodies, regional bodies will have dialogue with opposition parties. So, for instance, the Central Bank, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, by a matter of course, will have dialogue, will brief will update, will provide information to all political parties, whether in government or out of government, and or I should say established political parties, maybe not every single one, but that is pretty expected. In fact, you would also see diplomatic entities will normally be meeting with opposition groups to find out what their views are, because as has been pointed out in that clip, opposition leaders are potentially prime ministers in the next electoral cycle, and so therefore there is that continued dialogue that needs to happen with all stakeholders once there is something of import to be discussed. So as to whether in fact there's a need for this body or some sort of a loose grouping of opposition leaders, well, maybe that might exist. Across the Caribbean, of course, we've seen that parties tend to align based on their perhaps ideological leanings. Once upon a time, when under the Federation, in fact, right here in St. Lucia, we saw the formation of the West Indies Labour Party, the St. Lucia Labour Party being a member of that movement, which was formed and had certainly elements from all around the Caribbean coming together to be able to promote the socialism that was being put forward by that party. So we know normally, in fact, Mr. Shastri himself has been part of a grouping of conservative parties, both internationally. I think the CSU, or the Coalition of Conservative Parties. I can't remember the exact acronym for it, but he has certainly been part of that elsewhere. But let's take in a call at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hello, good afternoon. Hi, caller, are you there? I believe the caller might be listening to themselves or listening to something else, or listening to the radio. But if you want to call back, you can do so. Of course, the number is 452-3046. As I was saying, of course, he has quite often found alignment with conservative institutions, and I think there was a regional conservative union that had been formed. Of course, there were, in fact, I think he also went to be part of one in Taiwan at one point as well, I believe, and other parts of the world. So there are these groupings which exist, these various alignments which exist, and so of course I suppose he has chosen to align himself with that of the United National Congress. Well, there was a response coming from Dr. Rowley, as had been inferred in that news clip, and let's take a listen to what Dr. Rowley said at what was I think a conversation with the Prime Minister, which was the first for the year, in which he gave a response to the matter in the presence of Mr. Shastri on that anti-crime town hall meeting.
Because the matters that we are all very familiar with. But yet I have people telling me that the reason why the opposition is not doing that is because I am not part of the team. That sounds like sense to you? But they sitting down with Shastri, as if St. Lucia, who had Shastri in their government to run their country, throw him out of office unceremoniously, but in Trinidad to try to tell us how to run Trinidad. No thanks, Tropical Trump. But it just shows you where some people's interests are and where your government interests and your government's day work is.
And that there, a short clip from Dr. Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Sorry that the audio was a little low on that one. But of course, as often is the case, many countries and leaders seem not to be too interested in taking on advice that is coming from the outside. And of course, you heard the response there. No thanks, Tropical Trump. The words of Dr. Keith Rowley. Of course, the matter of crime is a very serious one, and it is going to continue to require regional cooperation. We've seen the efforts at play to do just that. Of course, we've seen the regional security system being put into use right here in St. Lucia as a response to the rising crime, elevated crime levels, in particular in V4 last year, and we saw some significant contribution by those officers coming from around the Caribbean. Let's take in a call before we end. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Hi, colleague. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, what's up? I didn't know you were back. I
Yes.
missed you for a couple.
We were out for about 3 weeks, and so we've been back from yesterday. We started back yesterday.
But quickly, but I don't know if you see it the way I see, but to me there is a double standard there, because I remember the last time when the former Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition, was Prime Minister. He was actually in TNT campaigning with Keith Rowley. Am I correct?
You're talking about Mr. Philip J. Pierre?
No. The former Prime Minister,
the current former Prime Minister. Okay, yes. Mr. Shastney was campaigning, you said. He was at a rally. Yes, he was, yes.
Right.
I believe so.
And here now, here what the present Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is saying concerning him, his presence in Trinidad.
Yeah, well, that's why it's interesting, because parties align themselves with different parties. They have traditional alignments. Sometimes these alignments change depending on who may be the prime ministers at the time. For instance, when Dr. Kenny Anthony was Prime Minister of St. Lucia and Kamla Persad Bissessa was Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, she was actually very generous to St. Lucia in terms of assisting with things like the laptops program. But one might say that is because maybe she was actually a student of Dr. Anthony when he was a lecturer at the University of West Indies. So you have these personal relationships that sometimes bring to bear certain things. But you're right, there was that alignment that existed apparently with Mr. Shastney going and being part of a PNM campaign. But sometimes both parties are sort of in one country might be aligned to the same party in another country.
But colleagues, all in all, is that healthy?
Well, I'm not sure how much it really matters.
In one breath, you are lending support to that particular political party, and then now you find it convenient to more or less speak out against that same government, that same party, that government now.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if that is healthy.
We've seen that issue in the past many times where parties are looking for external validation. They're looking for somebody from the outside to come and say, yes, what we're doing is good. And we do see, right here in St. Lucia, we would see the Labour Party is having an annual conference. They will invite sitting prime ministers or ministers from other sister parties to come and speak. And then those very same people may very well, if there's a government change, you still have to deal with those individuals.
But colleagues, that alignment, that what you're talking about there, to me, from my experience, is that these parties, the the affiliation has been consistent, right? Am I correct?
You're talking about which? Well, you're talking about, like, let's say the Labour parties.
Okay.
So, like,
All right.
Dominica Labour Party.
For example,
and
you'll find the St. Lucia Labour Party will at its conference of delegates or some conference, they will invite some political party or some political leader that is from the sister political party.
Right.
Now, it might not really be a Labour Party, but they had their affiliation and has always been consistent over the years. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, but in the case of Trinidad, it's a little bit muddied because there's no longer Trinidad and Tobago Labour Party. That died away. Well, I think right. So,
but
that would
if
have
you
been
look at the Labour Party, you will realize that with the Labour Party, St. Lucia Labour Party has always been in alignment with the PNM. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm not sure how closely aligned they have always been with the PNM either. But I guess, I mean, you may say they share the same color. It just so happens that they share the same colors. But I don't know how closely aligned they have traditionally been. But it appears that they have increased that association of late. But the UNC, which is a relatively recent creation, one can say, it's younger than the PNM by far. I don't know them to necessarily have been aligned to the UWP, but
UNC is an amalgamation of different political parties, yeah.
Well, there was an amalgamation, and then of course you had another party which was formed, Congress of the People, and then they broke away, and then they kind of merged again with I think it was called People's Partnership. So yeah, but it was never really. I don't think that there was necessarily an actual alignment between the UWP and the UNC. But I don't know. Maybe in some people's eyes, well, their color is both yellow, so they've taken it on that way. But but I don't know that in all honesty, as to how much it actually matters in terms of cooperation is not very clear as of now, and it'll be interesting to see how things move forward with this. But I mean, Mr. Shastney is of course looking for some sort of a coalition, as he's indicated. That of course will change. What happens when you have a coalition of opposition parties will mean that you will have some left-leaning parties out of power, and some right-leaning parties out of power. So they will now have to cooperate. So these groupings will I think generally be very loose. And
well, I think there are interesting days ahead. When it comes to politics in the Caribbean region. And I'm looking forward to it. But thanks for engaging me, Carl.
Thanks very much for that contribution, Colin. And do have yourself a good one. And of course, we'll continue to be providing some commentary in the days ahead. Of course, tomorrow we do hope that you can join us for another lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, thanks to all our listeners. We do hope you can have a very blessed day. We'll be taking in more calls tomorrow. I know the lights are still blinking, but we're going to have to end it here. I'm your host, Calix George Jr., saying goodbye.